Level 1. The Volunteer. The rain hasn't stopped for 3 days. Your Brecon weighs 55 pounds. Your boots have been soaked through since Tuesday. You are somewhere on the Brecon Beacons, and you have no idea where the next RV point is. You have a map, a compass, and a time limit you're already behind on. Nobody told you it would be like this. That's the point. You volunteered, signed the paperwork, passed the preliminary fitness screening, told yourself you were ready. Every regiment has that one guy who says he's going to attempt SAS Selection. Most of them never actually show up to week 1. You did. That already separates you from most people. It doesn't mean anything yet. Selection is not about fitness. You figured that out around day 4. It's about whether you fall apart when there's no reward coming, no sergeant shouting encouragement, no team cheering you on. Just the hill, the weight, and the clock. They strip everything away on purpose. The support structures, the group dynamics, the rank you came in with. A corporal from the parachute regiment runs beside a private from signals. Out here, none of that matters. You hit what they call the death zone around hour 9. Not death, just a place in your mind where the rational part of your brain starts negotiating. Just stop. Tell them you twisted your ankle. Nobody will know. You know that voice is in truth. It's just pain trying to dress itself up as logic. You keep moving. 40% of your intake has already quit. Some handed in their belt kits before the end of day 2. There's no shame attached to it officially, but you watch them climb into the truck and you feel something you don't have a word for yet. Not superiority. Something quieter. A line is being drawn and you're still on the right side of it. You don't talk about passing. You don't think about it. You focus on the next grid reference, the next ridgeline, the next hour. That's all selection allows you to be. Level 2, continuation. You passed. They don't make it a ceremony. A DS looks at your final time, marks something on a clipboard, and says, "Right, continuation starts Monday." That's it. No handshake, no applause. You almost laugh. Continuation training lasts months. Combat survival, signals, demolitions, combat medicine, tactical questioning resistance. You are learning a language that most soldiers never even know exists. The vocabulary of unconventional warfare. How to move through denied territory. How to build a network. How to destroy infrastructure with materials that fit in a day sack. You are no longer just a soldier. You are becoming a specific kind of instrument. The DS treats you differently now. Not warmly, but with a new baseline of respect. You are no longer a candidate. You are a potential asset. There's a difference. An asset gets information. An asset gets trusted with problems that candidates don't even know exist. You start to notice things about the other guys who passed, how they think, the way they approach problems quietly, methodically, without ego. Nobody performs here. Performance got weeded out on the hills. What's left is functional, efficient, real. Your old regiment feels distant already, like a previous version of your life. You call a mate from your old unit, and the conversation lasts 4 minutes. You don't have the same reference points anymore. You're becoming something he doesn't have a frame for. You don't tell him that. You just say, "Yeah, it's good, busy." The loneliness of it doesn't hit you yet. That comes later. Level 3. Trooper, 22 SAS. The badge gets sewn on and you get assigned to a Sabre Squadron. You are the new guy. You know it. Everyone knows it. The guy across the briefing room has been in for 11 years. He's been to places whose names you won't find in press releases. He's done things that have no official record. He doesn't say much. He doesn't have to. His competence fills the room like air pressure. Your first operational deployment is in a country you are not allowed to name to anyone. The tasking is clear. The rules of engagement are not. You operate in a grey space that your training prepared you for intellectually, but nothing could prepare you for in terms of what it does to your sense of the world. You make a decision in a compound at 0 to 30 hours. It's the right call. You know it. The intelligence supports it. The outcome is clean, professional. On the flight back, you stare at the headrest in front of you for 2 hours. You don't speak to anyone about it. Not because you've been ordered not to. Because there is literally nobody in your life outside this world who has the context to receive it. That's the first wall that goes up. Not built out of secrecy, built out of distance. You learn the unofficial hierarchy of the squadron fast, not rank, something older than rank, the hierarchy of proven competence. The guys who've been in kinetic contact, the guys who've run long-range reconnaissance for weeks without resupply, the guys the OC actually listens to in the room before he makes a decision. You are not those guys yet. You watch, you absorb, you perform at the highest level you know how, and you accept that your highest level is still the floor of where these men operate. That's not defeat. That's the correct reading of the situation. Level 4, Patrol Sergeant 5 years in. You have been to 7 countries. You have filed reports that never appeared anywhere. You have briefed government officials in rooms with no windows. You have brought all 4 members of your patrol home every time. That last part matters more than anything. You are a patrol sergeant now. 4 men answer to you operationally. You brief them. You plan the infill. You carry the weight of the plan and the weight of their lives simultaneously. It's 18 pounds of responsibility you don't put down when the op ends. You carry it to bed. You carry it through leave. You carry it to your sister's wedding, where you sit at the table and smile and nod and cannot explain to a single person at that table what you actually do. Your decision-making has changed. Gone is the processing, the checking, the internal debate. You run assessments in seconds now, not because you've stopped thinking, because thinking and doing have collapsed into the same motion. The gap between recognizing a problem and responding to it no longer exists, but something else has changed too. You feel less, not nothing. Less. The emotional response that used to accompany difficult moments has quieted down significantly. You tell yourself that's professionalism, resilience, compartmentalization. You are not entirely wrong, but you're not entirely right either. Your personal life has become a series of managed transactions. A relationship that lasted 2 years ended when she said she felt like she was living with a ghost. You didn't argue. You helped her move her boxes to her car. You drove home doing 60 on an empty motorway and felt nothing for 19 miles. Then you felt something. You drove in silence for another hour and never told anyone about it. Level 5, Special Duties and Intelligence Tasking. The regiment doesn't advertise this layer. You've been seconded to a joint task group that operates under a name that changes quarterly. The men around you are not all military. Some of them came from GCHQ. One of them has a background in academic research that you can't quite map to what he does now. Nobody asks questions about background in this environment. What you know is what the task requires. You are running human intelligence operations. You are building and managing source networks in environments where a single wrong conversation means someone dies. Not you, usually. Someone local. Someone who trusted the network. Someone with a family. You have made decisions that resulted in exactly that outcome. You rationalized each one correctly. The intelligence was critical. The operation was sanctioned. The strategic value outweighed the individual cost. Every link in that chain holds. You checked it. You check it again. But you know now that rationalization is a skill. And skills, when practiced enough, become automatic. That thought lives in a room in your mind that you don't open often. Level 6, Squadron Commander. You have the rank. More than that, you have the room. When you walk into an operational briefing, the energy shifts. Not from fear, from attention. These are among the most capable men in the British military, and they are facing you, waiting for what you know that they don't. That's a kind of power that doesn't exist outside this world. You manage upward now as much as you manage downward. The relationship with Hereford Command, the politics of interagency operations, the American liaison officers who come with their own command structures and their own agendas. You navigate it all. You speak the language of Whitehall when required. You speak the language of a forward operating base when required. The same person, different registers. Decisions you make now affect outcomes you won't learn about for months, sometimes years. An asset you approve for cultivation will produce intelligence that shifts policy. You will never see the direct line. You'll read a paragraph in a classified brief 18 months later and recognize the thread. That's your name attached to that thread. Invisibly. The men still trust you. That's the part you protect most carefully, not the relationship with command, not the interagency standing, the trust of the men. The moment they stop believing your decisions are made for the right reasons, you've lost something that does not come back. You haven't lost it, but you think about it more than you used to. Level 7. Director Special Forces. There are 9 people in the United Kingdom who understand the full scope of what you now oversee. You are one of them. You do not go on operations. You design them. You approve them. You sit in rooms in buildings whose addresses do not appear on any public record. And you look at a map of the world with 17 active taskings running simultaneously. And you hold all of it in your head with a clarity that would have seemed impossible to the man you were at level 1. 14 men have died under operations you sanctioned. You know all of their names, all of their faces. 3 of them had children you've met at memorial services. You sat next to their wives and you said the right things, and you meant them. You also knew things about the operations those men died on that their families will never know, will never be allowed to know. That is a weight with no bottom. The political layer is total now. You brief ministers. You push back on ministers when the intelligence doesn't support their preferred narrative. That requires a different kind of courage than the Brecon Beacons. Nobody's timing you. Nobody's watching from a hilltop. But the consequences of getting it wrong are larger, and the credit for getting it right is non-existent. You have not had a real holiday in 4 years. You have a house in Wiltshire that you see perhaps 40 days a year. There's a woman who has chosen, for reasons you are grateful for but don't fully understand, to still be there when you arrive. She asks you once, quietly, if it was worth it. You don't answer straight away. You think about the 19-year-old corporal from the Royal Anglians who made it through selection in your year, the one who didn't make it home from a mountainous region in 2019, the intelligence that came out of that operation. What it stopped? Yes, you say. You believe it. You need to believe it. At this level, the difference between those two things has become very small. Level 8, the ghost tier. You are retired. Is officially. The pension paperwork exists. The leaving function happened. Someone made a speech, and there was whiskey from a decent bottle, and men who do not show emotion showed something close to it for approximately 4 minutes. And then, the phone that has a number known to 6 people rang 3 weeks later. It will keep ringing. It rings because there are problems that require someone who has context, clearance, relationships, and the specific institutional memory that cannot be replicated by anyone currently serving. You are the only person who knows where certain threads are buried. You are not operational. You consult. You advise. You occasionally sit in a room in a foreign capital and have a conversation with someone who is also not officially there, and the outcome of that conversation shifts something important 6 months later. You have no rank, no unit, no title anyone would recognize. You have more access than most generals. You are 61 years old. You run 8 miles every morning out of habit, so deep it is physiological. You have a dog. You read a great deal. You have learned in the last few years to exist in a room without processing it for threats first. That took longer than anything else. The thing you didn't expect about this level is the quiet. Not peaceful quiet, empty quiet. The absence of the pressure that defined every year from 22 onward. The weight that became so familiar that its removal felt like losing something structural. You were built around it. You are still figuring out what the shape is without it. The men you came up with are scattered. Some are dead. Some are in the same gray space you occupy. A few left and built normal lives. Businesses, families, golf. You admire that. You don't understand it. But you admire it. Somewhere in Hereford, a soldier from one para has just submitted his selection application. He has trained for this for 2 years. He's run the hills in his spare time. He knows the weight requirements, the time windows, the route distances. He thinks he understands what he's walking into. He doesn't, but he will.